That's me, Danit, Inanna. I'm holding something precious to me. I don't want to give it at the gate to Bidu. I'm holding on to it tight. Then I realize I have to. I give it away. But then I regret. No, not really. I need it. I need it. I realize there's no choice but to give it. It turns into the gate itself. I pass through it. I come out the other side. Born. It's brutal. I'm dead. Then grace comes. It feels like the wings of a bird. Then I raise my head and I realize I am the bird. In 2009, I was walking outside in nature, embodying the story of Inanna. It was in Ghost Ranch, in a Birthing from Within retreat. And we were walking as the story of Inanna was told to us, going through the different stages. And just before we left on this journey, Pam said something that she also said in one of the videos. She said, you can't take yourself off the hook. No one can. And as I was walking, I realized that that's what I've been telling myself. Actually, I've been telling myself that I'll put myself on the hook voluntarily, and I'll take myself off the hook with my own powers. And I realized this is not exactly how it works. And surrendering to this idea right there, and many, many, many times after that, I realized that in a way, I'm alone. But at the same time, I'm not alone. I came out of this journey with this overwhelming feeling of I am not alone. That's kind of a paradox because we are alone in some ways, and nobody can walk the journey for us or instead of us. But at the same time, it's like this paradox of being separate and all one simultaneously. So I get to tell you the part of the story where Inanna gets help, where she finds her allies or they find her. So when you think of heroes, the word help is not exactly the first thing that comes to mind, right? Especially not in the concept of heroes in the Western culture that is more like superheroes, like Superwoman or Superman that have supernatural powers and comes to the rescue of all of us. Here the concept is different in the hero's journey. The story of Inanna brings us a different concept of a hero. It's a hero that can't get herself off the hook, that needs her allies to show up and send help. And help can be so many things. Help can be physical, help can be emotional, help can be spiritual. So I want to read you a Rumi poem about help, God's help. When God wishes to help, he lets us weep. Wherever water flows, life flourishes. Wherever tears fall, divine mercy is shown. So what's divine mercy? What kind of help is that? I tend to think about it as grace. It's the help you get when you got to the limit of your human capabilities. It's the help beyond human. It's what happens when you don't know anymore what to do. You're on the hook. And often we imagine grace as this beautiful thing, just like light pouring from heaven on us. And it can be beautiful things. But grace can also come in a tough sort of way. And this is really what the Inanna story is about. It's about fierce grace. This is a term coined by Ram Dass. Ram Dass was an American spiritual teacher and psychologist. And he actually experienced a stroke. And he interpreted this stroke as an act of grace, fierce grace. And you know me, there won't be a video without an Adyashanti quote, apparently. So here's what Adya says in the book, Falling into Grace. It's actually a combination of two quotes that I put together. Many circumstances and experiences are capable of opening us to this grace. Whether it's a beautiful moment in nature, or spending time with someone we love, or just sitting quietly in stillness, for some reason, a whole new perspective opens up. We find ourselves filled with grace. At other times, grace comes with a more fierce face. Somehow the difficult situation in our lives have a way of opening our hearts and minds the most. Because in those moments, we're willing to entertain the possibility that we may not know what we think we know. In this gap of not knowing, in the suspension of any conclusion on the hook, a whole other element of life and reality can rush in. So before Inanna leaves on her journey, she gives Ninshubur, her sukul, instructions what to do if she doesn't come back in 3 nights and 3 days. And when I was preparing this video, I reread the original translation, the translation of the original text, and I fell in love with it all over again. It's so beautiful. So when Inanna does not return, Ninshubur does exactly what she was told. She beats the drum for her in the assembled places. She circled the houses of the gods. She tore at her eyes. She tore at her mouth. She tore at her thighs. She dressed herself in a single garment, like a beggar. But when none of this helps, Ninshubur knows exactly what she needs to do. She needs to go and ask for the help of the great 3 fathers, 3 gods, the 3 wise old men of the kingdom. She can still hear Inanna's instructions echoing in her mind. Go to Nippur, to the temple of Enlil. When you enter his holy shrine, cry out, "Oh, Father Enlil, do not let your daughter die in the underworld." If Enlil will not help you, go to Ur, to the temple of Inanna. Weep before Father Nana. If Nana will not help you, go to Eridu, to the temple of Enki. Weep before Father Enki. So this is exactly what she does. She runs for the help of the first father, Father Enlil. And when she gets to him, she's a little bit intimidated because I imagine him as this really, really tall man, bearded. He has a stern look on his face and really sharp eyes. And when she starts telling him, he says, "I know, I've heard." And she weeps and she begs and she says, "Oh, Father Enlil, do not let your daughter be put to death in the underworld. Do not let your bright silver be covered with dust in the underworld. You've got to help me." And Father Enlil looks at her and he says, "What? Inanna didn't know what she's going into? Inanna has made her own bed and Inanna would have to lie in it." You know, in Hebrew, this saying is actually Inanna had cooked her own porridge and Inanna would have to eat it. And Ninshubur is taken back from this answer. But he says nothing else. He just turns his back and he goes into his hut. So she runs to Father Nana. Father Nana, I imagine, has this round-faced, like a grandfather, soft look, loving eyes. And he knows Inanna and Ninshubur since they were small kids. And she falls to his feet and she cries, "Do not let your precious lapis be broken into stone for the stoneworker. Do not let your fragrant boxwood be cut into wood for the woodworker. Please help me bring Inanna back." And Father Nana looks at her in his loving eyes and he says, you know, that must be Inanna's lesson. There's something there for Inanna to learn. That's why she got that challenge. I know. And at first, Ninshubur is kind of relaxed for a minute. Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason why Inanna got that. But then at a second thought, she goes, "What? I want to help Inanna back. I don't care about these theories right now." But Father Nana says nothing else. and goes into his hut and shuts the door. And Ninshubur is already pulling her hair out from worry. And there's only one thing left for her to do. Go to the third and last father, Father Enki, who's in Sumerian culture is the god of wisdom. And we're gonna leave her there for a while we talk about what kind of help really helps. So sometimes we have an internal or an external Father Enlil saying to us, well, you got yourself into that, you'll have to get yourself out of it as well. And sometimes there's an internal or external Father Inanna, who has this idea, this concept, this theory of why we got the challenge that we got in our lives, what it is there to teach us. There's a concept in Judaism called tikkun olam. In everyday language, it means fixing. But in the spiritual sense, it means rectifying or improving oneself and the world. And while there's a beauty to this belief that everything that we get in our lives is for us to grow, to develop, and in the spiritual Jewish sense, to help the world return to its original wholeness. But at the same time, when someone else, sometimes even when you do it to yourself, decides they know why you got a certain challenge in your life, that can feel very unempathetic. So it made me think of something I've read years ago as part of my Birthing from Within training about what kind of help really helps. And it was taken from a book called Grace and Greed, Spirituality and Healing in the Life and Death of Tria Killam Wilber. It was written by Ken Wilber after his wife died of cancer. But in the book, there's parts that she wrote herself, and she describes a scene in the kitchen where she was sitting with a friend of hers that also had cancer. And she talks about her mother. And she says like that: I described to him the various theories my sisters and I came up with to explain why our mother had gotten cancer. We had a number of those theories. Probably our favorite was that she had been too much my father's wife and not enough herself. Over the years, we had become quite comfortable with our theories and stories about this traumatic event. My friend, says Tria, my friend then said something that shook me deeply. Don't you see what you're doing? He asked. You're treating your mother like an object, spinning theories about her. Other people's theories about you can feel like a violation. I felt their theories as something done to me, not something done to help me. The thought of my having cancer must have frightened them so much they needed to find a reason, an explanation, a meaning for it. The theories were to help them, not to help me, and they caused me a lot of pain. I was shocked, Tria writes. That incident with my friend opened a door. The implicit message behind such theories began to emerge. Instead of saying, I care about you, what can I do to help? I was actually saying, what did you do wrong? Where did you make your mistake? How did you fail? And not incidentally, how can I protect myself? And this brings us right back to Ninshubur, where we left her. Just going to see Father Enki. And this is the last thing she knows that she can do to save Inanna and bring her back from the underworld. And she sees Father Enki sitting at the entrance to his hut, and he's cleaning the dirt under his fingernails. And at first she thinks he's not going to listen to me. He's not going to help me either. But Father Enki is offering a different kind of help. He cares. Father Enki said, what has happened? I am troubled. I am grieved. And you know who can help? The one who can help is the one who's been to the underworld and found his way back. Father Enki climbed his way up from the underworld, and this is the dirt that accumulated under his fingernails. It made me think of a quote that I read in a book that we learned in the winter semester, The Wounded Storyteller by Arthur Frank. It's a quote of a quote, actually. Now it's a quote of a quote of a quote. Arthur Frank is quoting Madeleine L'Engle, I hope I'm saying her name right, who's quoting a bishop saying of his wife's death, "I have been all the way to the bottom, and it is solid." And then Arthur Frank adds, the point of suffering from a spiritual perspective is that only the bottom is solid. And I don't mean it in a way that, oh, we should suffer to get to the bottom. No, it's not a should thing. But when we suffer, when we get into these life challenges, when the crown is taken and the gown is ripped away from us, and we lose our breastplate, and we have nothing left, and we reach bottom, only then we can realize that all this was not me. Then who am I? Father Enki takes the dirt under the fingernails of his right palm. He makes a little ball out of it, and he blows on it softly. And a little invisible creature called Galatur is born. And he does the same with the dirt under the fingernails of his left palm. Takes it, little round ball, blows on it, and another little creature is born, and he calls it Kurgara. In the Sumerian culture, Galatur and Kurgara are the names for the lamentation singer and dancer in the temple. Here they are described as smaller than flies, but really I imagine them invisible. They are described as nor woman nor man. I describe them as beyond human. And Father Enki tells them, Galatur, I'm giving you the water of life, and Kurgara, I'm giving you the food of life. Take them all the way to the underworld. When you'll get to the underworld, Bidu won't see you and won't stop you, because you are smaller than flies or invisible. When you get all the way down to the underworld, you'll see Ereshkigal there, the queen of the underworld. You'll find her on the ground in great pain. There's some versions of this story that she's actually in labor pains. Give her all the compassion that exists in the world, all the acceptance. She's not used to get acceptance. She's been sent to the underworld billions of years ago, forgotten. When she wants to thank you, don't agree to take anything at all. But, Inanna, but I am warning you, Inanna is green goo on a hook. You'll have to slowly feed her with the food of life and give her the water of life till she's strong enough to come back up with you. Go. I'll see you at the next video, where we'll talk more about what is the water of life and the food of life for you.